The Founding Fathers believed that God was central to defining America and to securing the blessings of liberty for our new nation.
No people can be bound to acknowledge and adore the invisible hand which conducts the affairs of men more than the people of the United States. George Washington.
The founders understood that for a republic to work, it required a kind of civic virtue. And most of them recognized that civic virtue was connected in some way or another to private individual virtue. Most people then, and I would argue most people now, get their cues as to what constitutes virtue, get their code of ethics from some form of religion.
True religion affords to government its surest support. George Washington.
Almost all the founders believed that religion was a kind of, you needed that as a grounding for republicanism, liberty, order, prosperity, you name it.
Of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. George Washington.
And so if religion supports personal virtue, and if personal virtue supports civic virtue, then religion is important to the successful functioning of our republic.
Reason and experience both forbid us to expect that national morality can prevail in exclusion of religious principle. George Washington.
You know, I think there's no question about it that Washington felt that morality, virtue, strong values were essential if people were going to rule themselves, that you had to have those things, and that he felt that organized religion fostered all of those things.
The founders certainly said often enough that without morals and religion, a government like ours, a republic, could not be made to work.
Our Constitution was made for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. John Adams.
All of the founders were men of religious faith. It was certainly part of their assumption that morality, public morality, depended on the flourishing of religion.
The Founding Fathers reflected a diversity of religious beliefs, but there was a very broad consensus. It was in the interest of the civil state to have a vibrant religious culture unleashed by religious freedom, religious liberty.
Clearly, the system of government given to us by our Founding Fathers was deliberately and intentionally built upon religion and morality. The founders were equally outspoken about the importance of maintaining Christian principles in, not out of the civil arena. Separation church and state today means secularize the public arena. Separation church and state 200 years ago meant keep the two institutions separate, but don't shut off the influences. We want the religious influence. We don't want to secularize society.
As an astute observer of early America, Alexis de Tocqueville wrote,
I do not know whether all Americans have a sincere faith in their religion, for who can read the human heart? But I am certain that they hold it to be indispensable to the maintenance of republican institutions. This opinion is not peculiar to a class of citizens or to a party, but it belongs to the whole nation and to every rank of society. Alexis de Tocqueville.
In fact, the biblical underpinnings of America were so obvious to previous generations that in 1892, even the U.S. Supreme Court had no difficulty in rendering a unanimous decision with what may be a surprising declaration for us today.
No purpose of action against religion can be imputed to any legislation, state or national, because this is a religious people. This is a Christian nation.
There is no attack on American culture more destructive and more historically dishonest than the relentless effort to drive God out of America's public square.
God, who gave us life, gave us liberty. Can the liberties of a nation be secure when we have removed a conviction that these liberties are the gift of God? Thomas Jefferson.
Our Founding Fathers were firm in their conviction that American liberties were a gift from God, not man. They were equally convinced that our continued political liberty would be tied to our continued religious liberty. That is why those who seek to weaken religious liberties in this country are threatening the very foundation of American civilization.